Hello traders, and welcome to my Patreon suggested video of the order flow updates made to Tensorcharts.com. So there were many updates that have been made, but I just want to focus on the most helpful data that has now come out of Tensor, and that is Bitmex data. Bitmex stats, as you can see here. And to get this data, you need to create an account, so just create an account over here or wherever it is, and then hit Bitmex stats. So what we see here is XBT USD on a few different metrics. And this might be a little bit hard to interpret at first, but I'm going to be going through each one of these factors and how we can use them with price. So the first one that we want to look at is just price through time. So as you can see, this is the 1 minute line chart, and here are the prices, and you can scroll out. I can do that. I could scroll in, I could scroll this way or whatever. What we also see is liquidations represented here and represented here. We have open interest, open value, total turnover, and then the funding rates down here. And what we're going to be talking about today is liquidations. We're going to be looking at open interest and total turnover and how we can use that to build a scalping strategy. So the strategy that we have with looking at liquidations on Bitmex is typically when many liquidations occur, what we want to see to take the other side of the trade is we want to see price make a sudden move and liquidate many positions. And when that occurs, we want to see a lack of ability of price to continue moving in that direction. That could either be consolidation or reversal. When we see that, that's when we typically want to open a position. So if we just look at really what I mean by that, take a look at the liquidations here. Red represents when longs get liquidated. Green represents when shorts get liquidated, also indicated here. I saw that many longs got liquidated here, around 6.4 million longs liquidated here, and then we had many longs liquidated here, 1.9. So about 8.3 million long contracts getting liquidated at this price, 76, 75. What we want to see is if we see price beginning to move in this direction after these liquidations occur, this represents an opportunity for us to buy in. However, we don't want to just look at liquidations. We don't want to just look at price and price action reaction. This is where we want to begin to look at really one of my favorite indicators, open interest. Open interest in futures is just going to look at the longs and shorts futures contracts and the rise and fall of those contracts. So what that means is when open interest is rising, that represents that positions are opening in the direction of that trend. When open interest suddenly drops, that represents that many traders have exited. Typically, when open interest rises, as price trends in one direction, price is going to continue moving in that direction. So a really good example of that here is notice how price begins to move upward, but open interest is just increasing. And price just continued to increase until interest began to fall. And as interest began to fall, this is when price began to move down to these levels here, when interest began to pick up again, indicated here. Now, the more interesting part is not just using this to confirm when or when not to enter the market, but we want to know where do we want to enter the market. And that's where we want to talk about the drops in open interest. So the drop in open interest that occurred here is pretty important. We dropped from the interest of 720 down to 703, as you can see here. This is the type of market that we typically want to enter when open interest suddenly drops and then we get many liquidations. The reason why I say that this is important is you may see liquidations occurring, but if you see open interest actually rising, that could be the sign that this could just continue to move down. Because what that means is that shorts and longs are opening positions more than liquidations are occurring in the direction of that trend, meaning price is just going to probably continue moving in that direction. So if we look at some historical, very quick drops in open interest, like one here, we can see many liquidations occur. We see a drop in open interest that occurs right here, and price moves flat. This is really just a fantastic buying opportunity, as you can see here. And what we also want to look at are other drops in open interest, such as here, where we get a V-shaped reversal, liquidations, open interest falls. However, there are times where open interest does not fall when liquidations occur, like here. Here we see that shorts are becoming liquidated. So typically we want to short if shorts are becoming liquidated, but not here. Open interest isn't really doing anything. It's just remaining flat. Open interest not dropping. You may argue that open interest drops here, but really not by that much. 686 to 681, that's really nothing. So this is a spot where we probably don't want to short. We only want to begin thinking about shorting, not when the liquidations occur, but when the open interest just begins to drop here. This kind of data is very important and really, I don't think, available to most traders. And that's why I like to look at Tensorcharts.com to get this kind of data on futures contracts of Bitmex. I'm seeing a drop in open interest here from about 690 to about 675. So we're losing positions here. Not a good sign of a continuation, because what we typically want to see with an uptrend is open interest rising, and then on any kind of consolidating move, we want to see open interest really not declining by that much, but just remaining flat. Flat during consolidation, that is. But we don't see that. We see this occur. So we'd probably want to exit here, then perhaps buy back in when open interest drops there and longs get liquidated. Here is the final example that I want to talk about with open interest and liquidations. We see that price goes up, and now we're curious, is price going to continue moving upward, or is this just a failed move? Well, that's where we look at liquidations and open interest. I'm seeing here many shorts getting liquidated, 23 million shorts liquidated. So this is a lot of liquidations that have just occurred, which means that if many shorts are getting liquidated, that's buy volume. That's probably why it went up, of course. But there's only so much buying that can occur, and this may be the end of the buying. And what we look at here is open value and open interest declines right there. Now, what you may be thinking is, but open interest continued to decline throughout this down move, which, yes, it does. You can see that open interest declines here, indicates us to probably exit or to short. And then open interest begins to decline here, which may want us to close our short in the minutes that occurred here. But then what we see is open interest begins to build back up. Longs are becoming liquidated here. So this is representing a time where we may want to go long. And you can see price does go higher. Right there. So yep, that's just the basic strategy. Is I like to look at liquidations, and then I like to look at the open interest in the market to try to time the market in the correct way. And there are many kinds of interesting patterns that do occur, and of course we always do want to adapt to those patterns as well. Another one occurred here, price spiked up, liquidations occurred, but open interest fell. That's a good sign of shorting here. So I think this is really just a scalper's kind of strategy, for trading short term against the trend. Because looking at position data on Bitmex, looking at liquidation data on Bitmex is good, but it doesn't tell you the entire story of the overall market. It just tells you a select few who are getting liquidated or who are opening positions. And that's why we want to look at this. Total turnover represents the amount of liquidity in the market, and you can Google search what total turnover in futures contracts means, and they will probably give a better definition. But really, it's going to show you how easy it is to buy and sell in the market. So you can see as this rises, liquidity is becoming more available. It's easier to buy and sell, whereas it's in periods like here, it's really not as easy to buy and sell, not as much volume, so it may be harder. How you use this information, it is going to vary. A lot of people view rising and falling liquidity in different kinds of ways. The way that I would look at it, just in a rough sketch, is I would imagine that rising liquidity with a trend would mean that the trend is likely to continue. But of course, that may vary as liquidity is just rising regardless of what occurs here, as you can see. We also get these blips in liquidity of total turnover rates, such as here. So yeah, I would make more sense of how you want to take a look at Bitmex liquidity, but really it's liquidations in combination with open interest that I've found to be most helpful. So with that, that's going to be it for just looking at this quick update of Bitmex stats and applying them to any market that you'd like to. If you would like to scalp on Binance or on Coinbase Pro or wherever, you can still use this kind of information to enter or close positions by just mirroring what you do, on Bitmex. Except you may not be able to short in other exchanges. That would just involve probably just selling. If you have any questions or would like me to talk more about Tensorcharts.com, the kinds of tools and updates that they're constantly putting out, you can comment below something that you would like explained or talked about in strategy. Thank you for watching and happy trading.